So 1852, it's a charged environment. But if you look at the politics of the time, now, and the United States has just won the war with Mexico, feeling pretty good about itself, but what does this actually do about, this is from, I think maybe Patty's going to talk about it a little bit. So this is from DSL, Digital Scholarship Lab.richmond.edu. And this would be something that people could look at. So it's playing, I'm not sure what, this.
What was the URL?
DSL. Okay, so watch here.
Reference to it in your like support.
Oh, okay. So let's I'm going to replay that real quickly, because what it shows is the evolution of American politics. So 1844 looks like 1840, right? You see how you still don't see the regionalization of American politics. 1848, same thing. 1852. So this is when Frederick Douglass is speaking, and the Democrats have just swept the nation, or are preparing to sweep the nation, because they have that awesome candidate, Franklin Pierce. Who wouldn't vote for him? And even with Franklin Pierce, the Democrats dominate. And you'll look at New York State, okay? It's the Democrats too. Franklin Pierce is from New Hampshire. And so if you're a northern abolitionist, black or white, you look and say, we're heading the wrong direction. It's not looking like we're mobilizing against slavery. Abolitionism peaked in the 1830s and 40s. And now it doesn't seem to be gaining steam. You look around in 1852, and it looks as if the patterns of American politics are actually supporting what the Republicans, who don't exist yet, call the dough faces, white northern sympathizers with the South. So one of the things that's important for people, notice if you have 2 minutes to set the scene for Frederick Douglass, they're losing. If you're trying to figure out why is he so filled with despair, why is he so nervous, coming into what we would think would be a sympathetic audience? And, well, I'm not going to answer the question. Why is he so nervous? We'll talk about that in a minute. So one of the things that you can see is that in 1852, things are looking bad. And then 1856, something's different happening here. Here's a new party, a brand new party, the Republicans, who are appearing across the upper north. Now, suddenly, you do see the regionalization of American politics. What's happened in between? The Whig Party has dissolved. After it lost the election of 1852, it dissolves, and the Know-Nothings, the nativists, come in and take their place. And so it's unclear what's going to happen. So the northern and southern majority of good people, as they think of themselves, Democrats, are looking at this contagion in the north of what they see as a purely regional party, who is not abolitionist, but is building with some of the abolitionist materials and is building on some of the know-nothing nativist materials. And so it's not clear what is going to happen as late as 1856, but it does become clear if they can nominate somebody, the Republicans, who could extend the electorate farther down toward the border in the north, that they could win. Because one of the things you'll see on this map at dsl.richmond.edu, Voting America, is that you can also see how this is all about population. And you can see that the northern population is so dense that if they all they have to do is win in the north, and they can control the next electoral election. So one of the things that's happened between 56 and 60, the time of John Brown's raid and so forth, is that people are looking toward the election of 1860 as being determinative. Now, you saw we asked the question about why is John Brown today a hero? You know John Brown's body and all that. On the other hand, there's been books in recent years that say he was a terrorist, or he was insane, or he was religiously motivated, and he did the one thing, as Henry David Thoreau says, that we should all be doing. We should all be risking our lives to help end slavery. But we're not exactly sure what to think about this. And Thoreau, like Douglass, is speaking to an audience that he assumes disagrees with him. His enemy there are what he calls the cackling politicians. Okay? So back then, people didn't have faith in politics. It's a hard time to imagine. And in fact, of course, they had much higher voter turnout. fact, for these elections of '52 for Franklin Pierce, who had the largest turnouts in American history. People really cared about that. And now suddenly, however, you can imagine what would happen if the Democrats or Republicans today disappeared and the Tea Party or the Occupy Wall Street people began to build a new party. Okay? That's kind of the environment here, is that things are unstable, and then you had John Brown coming in and doing this. But Henry David Thoreau looks around, he says, everybody's saying he's crazy, including Republicans. The people here who are in the upper north are distancing themselves from John Brown as much as they can, because they don't want to be tarred with the abolitionist label, because they want to win. And the abolitionists are not popular. So John Brown is attacked by the Northern Democrats, who are the things they say are just take your breath away with their racism. And the Southern, the entire population, but even the Republicans. So part of the energy behind Thoreau is not that, but hey, he did that whole Walden cabin thing, and we read his books, and people must have listened to him. Well, they weren't. And Frederick Douglass, there were many places he could not go in America and give that speech. He's talking in his hometown there. He's still nervous. And so's Thoreau, talking basically to people who agree with him. But he's still mad, because America is not listening to people like him and not really supporting very much John Brown. Now, the other thing, too, that you can imagine is that Virginia is the place where John Brown attacks. And so that's a kind of a subtext for a lot of the debates that are happening in the speeches that we read. So let's go see what happens here. Okay, here's the election of 1860. As you can see, it is chaos. Right? 4 different candidates in the field. This is like the light. I see people squinting. It looks really awesome when the lights aren't so bright. What you see is that Lincoln, in fact, does expand his base. But you see the Democrats are very strong as well. And there's that yellow party, or the new party, the Constitutional Union Party, who are saying, we're the reasonable ones. We're for the Constitution and the Union. And all we really want to do is that you acknowledge the Constitution and maybe amend it to guarantee slavery forever. That's all we need in the 13th Amendment. And Abraham Lincoln refers to this in a non-disparaging way in his inaugural address, which would have explicitly acknowledged, which he already acknowledged, that the federal government did not have the authority to end slavery where it existed. Lincoln's saying that in his inaugural speech. As I referred to yesterday, people like to either beat up on Lincoln or to sanctify him. Here you can see I've been elected just not long ago. I had a brand new party. There's no patronage machine. People don't really know who I am. A tiny, tiny fraction of American people would ever hear me speak. People make fun of the way I look. Politics are not settled, so I've not known what to say the whole time. After I've been elected, I've not said anything except written a few letters. I'm having to sneak into Washington, D.C. because of threats on my life before I've ever taken office. And the Deep South has already seceded before I had a chance to take office, because 2 bad things could happen once I did. I could do something or I couldn't. I could show that I was completely safe and the Deep South would have lost its moment, or I don't know what they think I could have done, but maybe I would have done that. So now my job is, I'm coming to office having sworn an oath to maintain the United States, but 7 states have already left. Now, here's a case where I think it actually does matter to understand some of the, whenever I'm on airplanes, and this is when I used to talk to people on airplanes before I flew every 3 days and leave me alone. But back then, people would say, so what do you do? I said, well, I'm a history professor. They go, always hated history, all these names and dates. I hear people, I hate history too. Because they think it's names and dates. And I say, I don't know any names and dates. And I barely do. But here's a case where if I were going to emphasize one important thing after the fact that American politics was so muddy through all this time, and that it's not clear that the Republicans were going to win, the abolitionists were going to win, I would emphasize that there was a long period of time between the secession of the lower South states and the upper South states. Now, if you don't know that, the Virginia secession debates don't make sense. And even Alexander Stephens' speech doesn't make sense. Because here's the important thing, is that the big drama that Lincoln's referring to, and when he's giving his inaugural address, it's not clear what, and I say this not just because I'm from there, what's Virginia going to do? Because Virginia, look at this. Look how the Constitutional Union Party wins in Virginia, and they say, we're the mother of presidents. We produced most of the presidents since the Revolution. We're one of the largest and most powerful states. We're the largest slave state. We're good people. We're going to save the nation. We'll figure this out. And Virginia says, we're not going to be like South Carolina and Georgia. We hate South Carolina for forcing us into this. We're going to have a convention. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to have every county in the state send delegates to Richmond. And we're just going to talk it through. We'll figure this out. And we'll tell President Lincoln, hey, you can count on Virginia. We'll work this through. And they come and they get together in the beginning of February, and they talk throughout February, and they talk throughout March, and they talk throughout early April. And most people who were sent there are Unionists. They are sent there because they're Unionists. And they vote Unionists over and over and over again. And the Deep South, the new Confederacy, sends delegates to Virginia to lobby them, to persuade them, to talk to them. They read Alexander Stephens' speech that's in the anthology. They excerpt it.